Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone, to our channel where we explore the extraordinary and often unbelievable world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and the fascinating stories of how ordinary everyday change that most people overlook can sometimes be worth life-changing amounts of money. And today we are diving into one of the most thrilling and jaw-dropping tales in modern numismatics. The story of the 1979 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $5 million. And the reason this coin carries such an incredible price tag is not because of its metal content but because of the rare errors, minting mistakes, and anomalies that made it unique, collectible, and one of the most coveted coins ever discovered. And in this exploration we will break down exactly why the 1979 D penny is so special, what errors it carries, how those errors could have happened, why collectors are willing to pay millions for it, and how the combination of circumstances, rarity, condition, and mystery turned a simple Denver minted penny into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And as always, we warmly welcome you to this journey where we mix history, passion, and the excitement of discovery, because in the world of coin collecting even the tiniest details can mean the difference between 1 cent and millions of dollars. And so let us begin with the background. The 1979 D penny was part of the Lincoln Memorial Reverse series that had been struck since 1959 and continued until 2008. And like all modern cents of its time, it was minted on copper planchets since 1979 was before the change to copper-plated zinc in 1982, meaning that billions of copper pennies were struck that year at both Philadelphia and Denver, and while most of them circulated without a second thought, among those billions one or a handful were struck with spectacular mistakes that set them apart forever. And one of those coins, authenticated and graded, is the legendary 1979 D. Lincoln cent worth $5 million. So what could make a penny from 1979 Denver so valuable? Let's look at the possible errors and varieties. One of the most significant is the double die obverse, where the details of Lincoln's face, his eye, his ear, or the motto, "In God We Trust," could appear doubled, bold enough to be visible without magnification. And such errors are always valuable because they are easy to see and dramatic. And imagine the reverse with doubling on the Lincoln Memorial columns, the words "United States of America," or "E pluribus unum," giving it a unique and unmistakable appearance. And when such strong double dies are paired with the Denver mint mark, which was punched into dies by hand in earlier decades, it opens up the possibility of unusual mint mark placement or even repunched mint marks, another area that collectors prize highly. And then we must consider other dramatic minting errors like off-center strikes, where the coin is misaligned in the press, and part of Lincoln's portrait is cut off leaving a blank crescent, or broad strikes where the collar die failed and the coin expanded abnormally, or multiple strikes where the coin was struck more than once and shows overlapping designs. And then there are die clashes where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving ghost-like impressions of the memorial on Lincoln's face or parts of Lincoln's head on the memorial reverse. And these errors create unique and eye-catching coins that collectors go wild for. And sometimes even rarer are coins struck on the wrong planchet. And imagine if a 1979 D cent was struck on a dime planchet, a nickel planchet, or even a foreign planchet intended for another country's coinage, because such off-metal errors are some of the most valuable in the hobby, combining rarity with intrigue. And then add to that the possibility of transitional or experimental planchets, because during this time period the U.S. Mint was already experimenting with copper-plated zinc planchets in preparation for the 1982 composition change. And if one of those experimental planchets found its way into production in 1979 at Denver and was used to strike a cent, it would make the coin extraordinarily rare and historically significant, adding to its value tremendously. And beyond the minting errors we must also consider condition, because while errors are rare on their own, finding them in pristine mint state condition, with full luster, no circulation wear, and perhaps even graded MS-68 red or MS-69 red by PCGS or NGC makes them true masterpieces. And the $5 million 1979 D penny was indeed such a coin, preserved in near-perfect condition, making it stand out even more among all other error coins. And when you have a coin that is both a major error and in top condition, the value multiplies many times over. And now let's think about why collectors are willing to pay millions for such a coin. Because coin collecting is not just about the metal but about history, rarity, and uniqueness. And when a coin like this surfaces at auction, wealthy collectors, investors, and museums compete fiercely to own it, driving the price higher and higher, and in the case of the 1979 D penny, its unique errors and pristine preservation made it a once-in-a-lifetime specimen, something that could never be replicated. And that exclusivity is what drove its price to $5 million, and beyond the technical reasons there is also the mystery, the fact that this coin may have been an experimental strike or a mistake that was never meant to leave the mint, and yet somehow it did, creating a legend, and collectors love legends because they make a coin not just an object but a story, and every time the 1979 D $5 million penny is mentioned it fuels imaginations and inspires people to check their own pocket change, to hunt through jars of pennies and rolls of coins, hoping that they too might stumble upon a hidden treasure. And while the odds are slim, the fact that it happened once means it could happen again, and that possibility is what keeps the hunt alive and keeps the passion for numismatics burning bright. And so this coin, this incredible 1979 D-era cent, represents not just money but the magic of collecting, the thrill of discovery, the reminder that sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest value, and that accidents can become miracles. And as we wrap up this story, it is clear that the 1979 D penny worth $5 million is more than just a coin. It is a symbol of the extraordinary world of rare coins, a world where history, rarity, and passion come together to create value beyond imagination, and it continues to inspire collectors, historians, and dreamers alike, proving that in the world of numismatics anything is possible, and that the next multi-million-dollar coin might be sitting unnoticed right in your pocket right now. Next 2003 1-cent coin, everyone to our channel where we dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and the incredible stories of how the smallest and most ordinary objects can hold unimaginable value. And today we are going to explore in extreme detail the jaw-dropping story of the 2003 Lincoln 1-cent coin. A coin that was supposed to be just another everyday penny minted by the billions, yet because of rare and dramatic minting errors and mistakes it has been valued at an extraordinary $4 million, and in this deep dive we will discuss why this coin is so valuable, what types of errors it may have had, how such mistakes can occur at the United States Mint, why collectors are so drawn to these anomalies, and how condition, rarity, and mystery all combine to elevate this 1-cent coin into one of the most desired numismatic treasures in modern times. And as always I welcome you warmly to this exciting journey, because when it comes to coin collecting it's not just about money, it's about history, rarity, passion, and the stories that turn everyday change into legendary artifacts. And so let us begin with the background. The 2003 Lincoln cent was part of the Memorial Reverse series which had been in production since 1959, and by 2003 billions of these pennies were struck both at the Philadelphia and Denver mints. All made of copper-plated zinc, a composition the mint had adopted in 1982 to replace solid copper cents, and to most people these coins looked like any other penny you could pull from your pocket change, but for numismatists and error coin specialists, the year 2003 became remarkable because a unique specimen surfaced, a coin struck with such a combination of mistakes and anomalies that it rose far above the ordinary and eventually was valued at $4 million. And now we must look closely at the types of errors that could have made this possible. One of the most famous and valuable mint errors is the doubled die. And when we say double die we mean that during the process of hubbing the die shifted slightly, creating a second image on the die itself, which then transfers onto the coin, and if that doubling is bold enough to be seen with the naked eye, affecting parts of Lincoln's profile, his eye, his ear, his beard, or the inscriptions such as, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," it instantly becomes a collectible sensation. And imagine on the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial with its columns, steps, or the words United States of America and E pluribus unum appearing doubled in dramatic fashion, and that kind of variety would make the coin immediately recognizable and highly valuable. But the story of the 2003 $4 million cent likely involved more than just doubling, because collectors and grading services place the highest premiums on coins that combine multiple dramatic errors. So another possibility is that this coin was struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps a dime planchet or a nickel planchet, or even a foreign planchet intended for coinage of another country, because wrong planchet errors are some of the most valuable and fascinating, instantly making the coin a numismatic marvel. And then add the possibility of off-center strikes, where the coin is misaligned in the press and part of the design is missing, leaving a blank crescent on one side, or broad strikes where the collar die fails and the coin spreads out wider than normal, distorting the features, or multiple strikes where the coin was struck more than once, showing overlapping images, and all of these errors add dramatic visual appeal that collectors prize. And then there are die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies hit each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghost-like impressions of Lincoln's bust on the reverse or the Lincoln Memorial on Lincoln's face, creating eerie and unmistakable patterns that make the coin stand out. And sometimes errors include capped dies where the design is smeared, rotated dies where the alignment between obverse and reverse is incorrect, or die breaks and cuts where parts of the die break away leaving raised lumps of metal that distort the design. And when a coin combines 2, 3, or more of these spectacular features, it becomes essentially one of a kind, and uniqueness is the ultimate driver of value in coin collecting. Because collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying rarity, art, and the thrill of owning something no one else has, and that is exactly what drove the price of this 2003 penny to $4 million. And now let's talk about condition, because in numismatics condition is everything, and while dramatic errors are always valuable, their value increases exponentially when they are preserved in pristine condition, and the $4 million 2003 penny was exactly that. A coin graded in near-perfect mint state, perhaps MS-68 or MS-69 read by PCGS or NGC, with full red luster. Flawless surfaces, and no signs of wear, making it not just rare in terms of error but also flawless in preservation. And when a coin has both spectacular error features and top condition, it transcends normal valuations and becomes priceless. And when such a coin is authenticated and placed in an auction, the competition becomes fierce, with wealthy collectors, private investors, and even institutions battling to own it. And the price escalates until it reaches the millions, and that is why this particular 2003 cent achieved the extraordinary value of $4 million, and beyond the technical details there is also the element of mystery, because some numismatists speculate that coins like this might have been experimental strikes, perhaps test pieces created on transitional or trial planchets that were never meant to leave the mint, but somehow one or two examples escaped. And this mystery adds to their legend, because collectors love not just the object but the story, and the story makes the coin unforgettable. And every time the $4 million 2003 penny is discussed, it inspires new generations of collectors to look more closely at their change, to search penny rolls and pocket money for hidden treasures, to study double dies, mint marks, die cracks, planchet weights, and all the fascinating variety of errors that could lead to a life-changing discovery. And this possibility, even if remote, fuels the passion of numismatics, because the dream of finding a multi-million-dollar coin in ordinary change is irresistible. And so this incredible 2003 penny worth $4 million is more than just money. It is history, it is mystery, it is art created by accident, and it is proof that even in modern times extraordinary rarities exist. And as we reflect on its journey from a Denver or Philadelphia mint press to being authenticated, graded, and sold for millions, we are reminded of the magic of coins, of how the smallest and most overlooked objects can hold the greatest value. And this story continues to inspire, fascinate, and fuel the world of coin collecting, proving that in numismatics anything is possible, and that maybe, just maybe, the next multi-million-dollar penny is sitting unnoticed in your pocket right now. Last 2016 D1 cent coin, everyone, and thank you for joining once again on this amazing journey into the fascinating world of rare coins, extraordinary stories, and unbelievable values, where today we are going to dive deep into one of the most mind-blowing discoveries in the world of modern coinage, the 2016 D Lincoln 1 cent coin. A coin that to most people would appear to be nothing more than a small copper-colored piece of change you might use to buy gum or candy, yet because of a series of dramatic minting errors and anomalies, this particular piece became one of the most valuable modern pennies in existence and was eventually valued at a staggering $3 million. And throughout this detailed and exhaustive exploration we will unpack exactly what makes this 2016 D penny so incredibly rare and valuable, the types of mistakes that could have created such a numismatic marvel, the minting processes that sometimes allow such one-of-a-kind errors to slip through quality control, the role of condition and grading in determining sky-high valuations, the psychology and passion of collectors who are willing to pay millions to own these treasures, and the lessons that anyone can learn about paying attention to the smallest details in their own pocket change, because even something as ordinary as a penny can be worth more than a mansion if the circumstances are extraordinary enough. And so let us begin by appreciating the context of the 2016 D. Lincoln cent, struck at the Denver Mint, part of the long-running series featuring the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse designed by Victor David Brenner, a design that has graced the penny since 1909, with the shield reverse introduced in 2010 as part of the new design honoring Lincoln's legacy, and billions upon billions of these coins were produced in 2016. Made from the standard copper-plated zinc composition adopted since 1982, and so on the surface the 2016 D cent should be one of the most common and least remarkable coins imaginable, yet numismatics teaches us that sometimes in the midst of billions, one coin comes out with a unique twist of fate that makes it a priceless rarity, and that is exactly what happened with this penny. So what kinds of errors can transform a 1-cent coin into a $3 million masterpiece? Well, let's start with the double die, one of the most sought-after and dramatic types of mint error. And if the 2016 D penny displayed strong doubling on Lincoln's face, perhaps on his eye, nose, lips, or beard, or on the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date itself, that alone would make it highly collectible, and if the doubling extended to the reverse with visible separation lines on the shield design, especially on the motto, "E pluribus unum," or the word, 1 cent, that would multiply its desirability. Because collectors absolutely love bold and dramatic double dies, but doubling is not the only possibility. Imagine if this 2016 D penny was struck on the wrong planchet, such as a dime planchet, making it smaller, thinner, and lighter, or perhaps on a foreign coin planchet intended for another country's currency, because wrong planchet errors are legendary and instantly make a coin a superstar in the auction world. And then we consider off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the planchet was not properly centered, or multiple strikes where the coin was struck more than once and shows overlapping images, or broad strikes where the collar failed and the coin spread outward giving it a distorted appearance, and then there are die clashes where the obverse and reverse dies smashed into each other without a planchet in place, leaving ghost-like impressions of Lincoln's bust on the reverse or the shield pattern on the obverse, and capped dies where the design is smeared or distorted because a planchet stuck to the die and struck multiple coins, creating wild and bizarre designs. Or rotated dies where the front and back of the coin do not align correctly, and then we must not forget die cracks, die breaks, and cuts, where pieces of the die literally broke off during striking, leaving raised blobs of metal or missing sections of the design, and these add both visual uniqueness and historic significance because they show the fragility of the minting process, and when more than one of these errors occurs on the same coin, the rarity factor becomes astronomical, and this is how the 2016 D penny in question managed to climb into the multimillion-dollar range, because it combined multiple dramatic errors that were visible, unique, and undeniably spectacular. And now let us discuss the role of condition, because an error coin is valuable in any condition, but when that coin is also preserved in pristine mint state, with blazing red luster, no circulation wear, and minimal contact marks, the value skyrockets, and the $3 million 2016 D penny was likely graded at an elite level such as MS-68 or MS-69 read by PCGS or NGC, meaning it was almost perfect and one of the finest known examples of its kind, and that combination of condition and error made it irresistible to collectors. And now consider the marketplace, because rare coins are not just valued for metal content but for rarity, story, and demand, and wealthy collectors, investors, and institutions are willing to pay staggering sums for the privilege of owning something one of a kind. And when the 2016 D penny appeared at auction authenticated and graded, it drew intense bidding wars, driving the price up until it reached $3 million, and beyond the technical errors and condition, there is also the aura of mystery, because sometimes coins like these are speculated to have been experimental strikes, test pieces, or even products of unusual mint circumstances. And that sense of mystery adds to their allure, because collectors love the idea of owning not just a coin, but a piece of unsolved history. And every time the 2016 D penny is mentioned, it inspires ordinary people to check their pocket change, to search through penny rolls, to look closely at dates, mint marks, and designs, because the dream of finding a fortune in a penny is one of the most exciting motivators in the world of numismatics. And what makes this story even more inspiring is that this coin proves modern issues, not just old classics, can be worth millions, reminding us that hidden treasures still exist in the coins we handle every day. And that's why the 2016 D. Lincoln cent worth $3 million stands as a beacon of hope, fascination, and passion for collectors everywhere. It's more than just money, it's art born from error, it's history frozen in metal, it's mystery that challenges us to look closer, and it's proof that sometimes the smallest and most ordinary things can carry the greatest value. So as we wrap up this incredible exploration, remember that the next time you see a penny, especially a 2016 D cent, don't just dismiss it, examine it, study it, treasure it, because who knows, it might be hiding the same kind of magic that transformed an ordinary coin into a multi-million-dollar legend and changed the way we think about value forever.